Hi, my name is Steve McSwain. I'm serving as the campaign leader for the Glorify initiative. I'm from Kentucky. You can probably tell. We make three things in Kentucky: bats, bourbon, and burley. That is, we make baseball bats. You've heard of the Louisville Slugger. We make some of the finest bourbon in the world. Maybe you've enjoyed Maker's Mark or Woodford Reserve or Knob Creek. And yes, even the hard-to-come-by Pappy Van Winkle. And we grow burley. That is, we make cigarettes, Marlboro, Philip Morris, Virginia Slims. So we make bats, burley, and bourbon. Now you might understand why our state motto is, "If it kills you, it was made in Kentucky." I'm a finance consultant. I teach people the art of biblical living and giving. My guess is you didn't know there was such an art. Well, there is. There's an art to living biblically, and there's an art to giving generously. And the art and practice of these two almost always leaves its practitioners the happiest of people on planet Earth. You see, I've never known a generous person who was an unhappy person. Now, I've met a lot of unhappy people, but generosity is the rich soil in which joy germinates and grows up into a lifetime of happiness and fulfillment. But a lot of people, even people in the church, are confused these days. They want happiness because, well, who doesn't? Everyone wants it. Few people, however, seem to find it, and fewer still know even where to look. Jesus said, "Go through the narrow door, for the door is wide and the road is easy that leads to hell." Think of hell as thorough unhappiness. "And many are taking that road," said Jesus. "But the road is narrow and the way is challenging that leads to life that lasts. And few people are finding it." That comes from Matthew 7:13 and 14. So do you want to find it? It's the way of discipleship. So don't be confused. Don't be like those who mistakenly think that their happiness depends upon their happenings happening the way they happen to want their happenings to happen. So what do? They go through life organizing their happenings because they happen to believe that if their happiness depends on their happenings happening the way they happen to want their happenings to happen, they'll be happy. We've learned much in the last 2 to 3 decades on happiness, real happiness. In fact, there's actually today a science of happiness. In virtually every psychology department on college and university campuses today, you can earn a degree in positive psychology. It's simply the study of happiness. Why are some people happy and others are not happy? Here's what we've learned. Half the happiness you'll ever know in life is determined by your genes. No, not those genes. Your genetic makeup. Some people, you see, are by nature optimists. Some are pessimists. Some people can make a heaven of hell, and some people can make a hell of almost any heaven. It's just how they're wired. We've learned Abraham Lincoln was only half right when he said, "People are about as happy as they make up their minds to be." The real truth is, science is telling us that people are about as happy as their parents were. Researchers have found something else that's interesting. They found that only about 10 to 15% of your happiness and my happiness is tied to our circumstances. Happiness depends on everything going your way. You remember, like Curly sang in the hit Broadway musical, "I'm going to have a great day today because everything's going my way." I'd try to sing it, but I'll spare you that. These are the people who look for happiness outside themselves, in pleasure, position, their possessions, power, promotions. They go through life looking for the lucrative, the biggest, the best, climbing the ladder of success. You see, they bought into this myth we call the American dream. Consequently, they spend their lives looking for more. And yet, the research is telling us only about 1/10 of your happiness and my happiness is ever dependent on such things. But, again, people are confused. They mistakenly think if you want to be happy, you got to go to the right school, do well, graduate at the top of the class, earn a degree in a lucrative field, find the right job, climb the ladder of success, earn respect, be liked by everybody, get promoted, make lots of money, live in a nice house in the right neighborhood, drive a Beamer, have 2 kids who are the most popular in the school. So they spend their lives giving 90% of their effort to what the science of happiness is telling us, and what Jesus tried to tell us 2,000 years ago would only give us temporary happiness. Now, none of these pursuits are in and of themselves wrong. It's just that Jesus said, "Man shall not live by bread alone, by the material abundance in this world." Which might be why the late Will Rogers said, "The problem with unhappy people today is that they borrow money they don't have to buy things they don't need in order to keep up with people they don't even like." So what's the answer? If half our happiness is out of our control, it's in our genes, and another 10% is derived from the pursuit of stuff, none of which could ever give us anything more than a temporary thrill. Sure, marrying the right girl, getting a good job, driving a Beamer, living in a $500,000 home, growing up being the envy of your class, winning the lottery, all of that feels good. The problem is, it never lasts. There's a better way. Few will find it. But the Glorify campaign is all about our hope. Many of you will find it. It's the way of giving yourself away. In other words, real happiness is just the opposite of almost everything you've been taught. You've been taught to get. Jesus teaches you to give. You've been taught to acquire. Jesus says, let go. You've been taught to gain by gathering. Jesus teaches us to gain by giving. Jesus' way is counterintuitive, and yet it will lead you to an encounter with a life-transforming kind of happiness and fulfillment. So we have 2 goals in this Glorify campaign. First, we want everyone to be all in. So I'm asking you to make a commitment, Second, that commitment to make a commitment goes in 2 directions. I commit to growing higher in my faith and deeper in my degree of generosity. And I commit to praying and asking God to teach me the joy of generosity and to help me take a real step of faith in my growth in that direction. In closing, I'm not here to tell you what to give or even how to give. I'm here only to provide the framework within which you and your family might prayerfully discern and decide what God is leading you to do. Here's how to know. First, pray. Have a conversation with God. God, how's my giving? How may I grow in giving? Second, talk. That is, have a conversation with your spouse, your children, your family. Have you ever, for example, told your children what you give and why? Use this initiative as an opportunity to talk to your children about giving, your giving. Third, reflect. Listen for the voice and direction of God. He will speak to you. And then decide and entrust. God will take care of the rest. Thank you, and may God be glorified.